Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you all for joining us. We are offering a few of these virtual college counseling information sessions to help stay students and parents to stay informed while we're out of school. Today's session is going to be on tips for successful college search and admissions process. And our presenter today is Megan Starling. She is the Director of Admissions at Rhodes College in Memphis, Tennessee. And in just a second, I'll have Megan go ahead and begin. But I just wanted to, if people start to come in, I just want to let you know kind of the way the format's going to be set up. Megan's going to give her presentation, and periodically, a couple of times, maybe throughout the session, she will stop. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to use the chat function on Google Meet to ask a question, and then I will go ahead and ask those questions of Megan and kind of moderate the question period. And if you don't mind, everyone keeping your mute on so that we don't get any background noise while Megan does her presentation, that would be great. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Megan. Thanks.
All right, thank you. I'm glad to be with y'all today. I understand that it is a beautiful afternoon, so congratulations. We're hoping to have sunshine here in Memphis sometime soon. It has been a rainy quarantine period so far. But we at Rhodes College are also enjoying remote learning right now. Our students moved out of the residence halls middle of last week. So we're also all working from home, and our students are working with professors through remote instruction. So I'm joining you from my own dining room, but am glad that we have a platform and a way to stay connected during this time, and also for us to be able to still share tips about what's happening with your college search, and maybe some things that you can expect and be doing now to prepare for a successful senior year. I realize that things are different than you probably planned for them to be in the spring of your junior year. And so as I can, I'll add information about what I know on the college side to kind of help ease some of your concerns and anxiety as you are planning for what is already a stressful process for so many students and families. But our current situation certainly compounds that. So I've got a few slides. I'm looking forward to taking some questions as well. And I will be as transparent as I possibly can be. This is my first time using this format, so I appreciate your patience as I figure out the best way to navigate this with y'all. Okay, so we're gonna get started right away here. I'm kind of thinking about these tips in two buckets. One is your college search, figuring out what kind of college is right for you. Not how you are right for that college, but how the college is right for what you are seeking in your college experience. So starting there, what is it that you want from your future college home? And then secondly, what can you be doing to prepare yourself, not just for admission, but to have the best possible experience once you arrive at that college campus? All right, so big picture things. We're going to talk about identifying what it is that you're looking for in that college experience, how you can do your research and take advantage of resources so that you are making a comprehensive list that best fits the criteria that you have identified. Then we're going to talk about switching to that preparation piece. What is it that you can be doing to make sure you're ready for applications, that you know what colleges are looking for, and that you're ensuring that best transition. How to use your admission counselor throughout this, and how to wrap things up as you're finished. So starting with that what you're looking for in a college experience. I sit down with a lot of juniors, sophomores especially, who already have so many questions about Rhodes or a particular college. And the first thing I like to ask is, what is it that you're looking for in a college experience? And a lot of people are really taken aback by that question because they've been so focused on, do I have what I need to get into this school, that they haven't actually sat down and thought about, what is it that I want out of a college? And so some things to guide that list, thinking about size of institution. There are students that attend smaller private schools like KCD who think, I've done the small thing, now I want to go to a really big school, I would encourage, and for some that's a great fit. I would encourage you to think about not just what kind of school you imagined that you would go to when you were watching sports games as a little kid, but how is it that you have learned best at KCD, and how do you see the size of the institution playing a role into how you're going to learn in college? Thinking about location at Rhodes, something we talk a lot about is location, because we are a liberal arts institution, typically thought of as a smaller school, but we're in the heart of a major city. And a lot of the students that are attracted to Rhodes want a city surrounding. But there are plenty of students for whom you imagine a really big school in a college town, or you imagine a really small school very remotely located, so that everything that happens in that town revolves around the college, and that's what you're kind of seeking. So location, and then location as well, thinking about, are you a big fan of snow? Because if you're looking at, Bates, Colby, or Bowdoin, you need to plan for some snow. They had some just yesterday. I have several friends that work there, and that's a reality of what your life will be like. If you are someone that wants to experience a winter, you might not want to look at University of Miami in Florida, because that's going to be a very different climate than someone who's looking for winter. So it's not a silly criteria to think about the location of the school. Academic program is going to guide some of your searches. If you are definitively, without question, going engineering, there are certainly better options for future engineers. That's something I'd want you to talk with your parents, with your college counselors about, because there are plenty of schools that offer a range of academic programs that could incorporate what you think you want to do. And I would argue that you want to find a school that has flexibility within their academic program, just in case that plan changes. What does student life look like to you? Do you want a campus where most people live on campus? Do you want people at sporting events? Do you want to be part of an arts community? Do you want to be part of student government? What role does the community beyond academics look like for you? Do you want to play a sport? Do you want to attend sporting events? For some, religious affiliation matters. There are a lot of different things to consider, and you make this list and think about, I like to tell students to think about it in two ways. A good day at my college home always includes ... and a bad day at my college home never includes. And if you think about your college experience in those terms, you might come up with some things so that when you sit down with your college counselor, they can better give you some guidance on what that list should look like. And you're more likely to end up with a final list of colleges, all of which would be a good fit for you. So you got to do your research to figure out, now that you've got that criteria, what matches that, what colleges would match. So you're lucky to attend a high school with not just one, but two dedicated college counselors. Please, please, please take advantage of them. Not only have they been on lots of college campuses and referred students to colleges for a long time, but they have a direct connection to admission counselors all over the country. So if they have a question as to whether or not this school would be a good fit for someone who wants to wrestle and study neuroscience and spend a year abroad, they can help do some of that research for you. Of course, you're going to use the internet quite a bit, particularly in our current climate. The good news for you is that never before have there been so many ways to explore and experience college right from your own home. This current pandemic has required colleges to put everything they have on the internet. So you're in a good position to get a lot of research done that way. Imagine that several of you have gotten mail, particularly if you've taken PSAT, Plan, SAT, or ACT. Colleges purchased your names through a search process. So you've been added to mailing lists, and that's probably why you're getting mail from colleges and universities you've never even heard of. But now that you're home, you have a little more free time, a little fewer activities. Open up some of that mail. See if any of it speaks to you. Because again, it's a college's best foot forward, but it may just include some kind of messaging that really speaks to what you're seeking. People like me, admission counselors, come this fall. We hope to be back on your campuses, attending visits at KCD, attending local college fairs, offering interviews in Louisville. But until then, many of us are available for those kind of interviews through Skype or FaceTime or Zoom or Duo, you name it. And so we can be a good source of research for you. And then I would encourage you to keep in mind KCD alumni. There are lots of students who know exactly the experience that you are having now, who attended a college or university you're interested in and can very directly speak to what that transition was like. So don't discount the experience that your alumni have had. And of course, you know, we all know alums or friends who didn't have a great experience at one school, but then your other friend had a great one. So you got to use that with a grain of salt, but it can be a really personal reference. All right, real quick, and then we'll get to questions. Obviously, you're not taking any road trips right now, or I would not advise that, as campuses, though they may be open, are not going to be places that are going to impress you at this point. Come fall, we should be back into a normal routine with lots of different types of visits available. I've listed some of them here. I understand there's another one of these sessions tomorrow that focuses very specifically on how to make the most of a campus visit. So I hope you'll tune into that because there are right ways and wrong ways to visit colleges and to really explore even their virtual options. I always encourage, whether you're doing a virtual option or a physical visit, you keep some kind of journal or log of your reflections and impressions when you have been on that campus, because some of you probably were going to go during spring break, so you didn't get this experience yet, but maybe you went during your fall break and first semester, and you see 5 or 6 campuses in a row, you see 10 or 12 total, and it's hard to remember what number 2 was like versus number 5. So don't assume that just because you took in a lot of information in the moment that you're going to remember it by the time you're filling out the Common App in September or October of your senior year. So make some notes. What stood out to you? What did you not like? The other thing I would encourage, particularly as life opens up to us again, hopefully sooner rather than later, is take advantage of visiting the schools in your immediate area. Even if you're not interested in U of L, even if you're not interested in Bellarmine or a Western or a Center, a Transy, a UK, these are places that they're very different, all of them, and they represent a lot of different types of schools. And without needing a hotel room or much time off of school or work, you can take in a lot of different types of schools, which again helps inform that research list, because you're like, okay, I liked this about Center, I didn't like this about U of L, and you can extrapolate those things to other schools that you might be visiting. All right, but we all know you're not visiting schools right now, and if you've got that time and you want to make some headway in building that college list, I grabbed this from our page today. We're trying to promote it, but if you go to any college or university in the country, they have developed virtual options that are kind of all collected on a single page. So, as you're building your list, check out what they offer, because you actually might be able to have more engagement than you otherwise would have had in spring of your junior year virtually, given what we're having to share with our audience through the internet. So as you can see, and this is only half the page, but there's, a campus tour, there's a video tour, there's a whole series of conversations that we have recorded. You could scroll down and you could click on a link to have a meeting with the student. You could tour residence halls. We're about to tell you you can visit classes virtually. So again, tune in tomorrow and see the best ways to do that. But as you're making your list, you're starting with what you want, then you're consulting the resources you have available to you to figure out how what you want becomes a college list. And then hopefully it gets filtered down even more once you've seen what some of these colleges have to offer. But I'm going to take a break here and see if anyone has any questions.
So I know some of you entered the session right after we began. So I just was going to let everybody know Megan's going to take a break here, maybe a couple of breaks during the session, and give everybody an opportunity to ask questions via the chat function. So if you don't mind keeping your mic on mute, but if you do have a question, please use the chat function to ask that question, and then I can read that question to her and she can answer it. So if anybody has any questions, go ahead and submit that via chat. We'll wait here just for a few seconds here and see if anybody has any questions. Megan, one question we have, this is from actually Mr. Pickin. Should students or parents schedule visits to schools or communicate with the colleges?
Yeah, this process is one that we hope the student is very much leading and taking charge of. Visits is an area where that's kind of an easy way for a parent to step in and take a role where they feel like they're really helping. And often their schedule might allow for easier communication with the college during business hours. So I don't necessarily have a problem with the parent scheduling the visit, especially because sometimes they're coordinating the logistics of this school in the morning and this school in the afternoon, and we need to leave here by this time. But what I would ask is that the student and parents sit down together and go over what options are available and what the student actually wants to experience. Because frequently we'll have parents sign a student up for everything we offer, including faculty conversations, a coaches meeting, and the student gets there and they're like, I actually don't want to play lacrosse, and I'm only kind of interested in psychology. I'm leaning toward, and so you don't need to sit down with a faculty member if you're only kind of interested in a subject that you don't have genuine questions about. So make sure that if the parent is executing the actual visit registration, that it's been discussed as a family first. It's pretty obvious when a student is doing things on a college campus they didn't want to do.
Great, thank you. Our next question is from a student who asks, what type of college visit do you find would be the most successful? And I think they mean like, just kind of doing the campus tour on a typical day, or visiting during a special visit program or something along those lines.
Right. I think part of it depends on where you are in the cycle. By senior year, maybe in the fall, you might still be open to a kind of an open house program, which, the thing about an open house, you get to see all that the college has to offer. They lay it all out for you. You're going to meet tons of students. You're going to see faculty from all kinds of different areas. You're going to meet student life people from all kinds of different areas, but there's very little personalization to the visit. And you're kind of moving in a pack from thing to thing. And so it's a great way to experience a lot of things. It's a great way to meet other students who are also interested in that institution. But again, very little personalization. So depending on where you are in the search, that can be a great fit. My second choice would be to visit on a weekday when classes are in session. A lot of colleges offer Saturday, sometimes even Sunday visits. You lose a lot by visiting a campus on a Saturday or Sunday. Even places like Rhodes, which are residential and students don't go home, I can promise you when you're a college student at 11:30 on a Saturday morning, you're not going to be roaming around campus. You're going to be in your room, in your social room, in your residence hall. You're going to be kind of hanging out in residential life. So those students, that activity isn't quite as apparent, and you lose the opportunity to attend class, talk to a faculty member, or talk to anybody who works during business hours. So being there during the business day when classes are in session gives you the greatest feel of the natural vibe of campus. And those allow for personalization most often, where you can say, I specifically want to do this.
Great, thanks, Megan. I think those are all the questions for now.
Okay, great. We're going to move into, what that preparation looks like. And this is often the area where students, I think, feel the anxiety. What does an office like mine look for when they're considering admission? And again, I want to remind students listening, and if there are parents, these things are important for consideration in the admission process, but they also are all designed so that we bring students to campus that we feel are going to successfully transition. So they're not kind of arbitrary in their determination, at least not for selective schools. So here are 5 Ps stolen from a former boss of mine a decade ago. Your academic program, your performance, your potential, personality, and participation. So we're going to go through each one of those. This is one of those things that COVID-19 is not going to affect or take away from y'all. The very first thing that we are paying attention to at the selective or highly selective level is that transcript. You know, where did you take advantage of AP classes, of higher rigor, and how did you perform in those courses? So it's not just a flat GPA. It's not just I have a 3.8. It is what are the courses that you took to get there. And I would, you know, I look more optimistically at a student who chose some rigor, but maybe doesn't have straight A's than someone who I'm not sure has taken very many classes that are actually preparatory for the rigor that they're going to experience at my college. Performance, that's where your GPA comes in. Any KCD doesn't rank, but a grade distribution and assessment of where you are in the class. This is where the college is going to get to figure out, okay, you know, they have a GPA that performs within kind of our national standards or our national average. And within their competitive school, they're performing in the top 20% of their senior class or the top 50% of their senior class or whatever, however competitive or selective that school may be. So again, the courses you take, but also how you're performing in them. And I encourage students to take a look at the profile that KCD produces. It accompanies every transcript that is sent to a college, and it's kind of like a decoder key for an admission counselor or admission office who doesn't know much about KCD. And it's a good way to get a sense of how your school is being represented to colleges and universities around the country. Okay, potential. So this is where we're seeing, you know, SAT and ACT are supposed to be aptitude scores. This is where we're getting a sense of what we think is on the horizon for you. I'm going to come back to the test scores. Recommendations, particularly at a school that practices a holistic review, are going to be really important. And so one of my tips here is make sure that you are identifying now, particularly my juniors, the teachers that you want to be writing those recommendation letters. When they get a lot of notice, they tend to be better letters. I would also encourage you to think not just about the teachers where you had easy A's, but maybe some of those classes where an A did not come easy for you, or maybe you never even got an A. Maybe the highest grade you ever got to was a B or a B plus or what have you. But that teacher saw you work from initially not really understanding to a place where you got much closer to mastery. Colleges and universities increasingly want to see that students know how to fail or at least have some kind of disappointing experience and rise from it. So those are my favorite recommendation letters, a teacher that can speak to a student who showed growth over the course of their time in the class. All right, SAT and ACT scores. For those of you who are planning to test in the next couple of months, the May date for SAT is canceled. There's a lot of uncertainty about future dates beyond that. There are a lot of colleges and universities, specifically selective ones, who are actively talking about going test optional, at least for the 2021 school year. So we know that Case Western, we know that Tufts, we know that Scripps have already said they're not going to require test scores next year. This is a movement that I feel like more and more colleges and universities, particularly at the selective level, are going to join. So if that helps alleviate some of the anxiety about what your test profile currently looks like and how much time you thought you were going to have to build on it, I think there's going to be a reprieve for you there. I don't know that for sure, but there are certainly active conversations about lots of other colleges and universities following the example of places like Case, Scripps, and Tufts. And of course, there are plenty of schools out there that are already test optional or have other varied test policies where you can submit a score, but you don't have to. And so depending on where you are with your test profile, there are lots of options out there for you. A high ACT or SAT is not the only way to go to college. My other tip for you in the SAT, ACT world is don't put all of your eggs in a really strong test score. If you have already tested and did really well, and you feel like, okay, well, I'm going to get into any selective school. I've got a 33 ACT. At a place like Rhodes, you see where the SAT, ACT bullet is. There are 2 bullets above that. So a 33 ACT and someone with no rigor and very few strong grades of mastery is not likely to be admitted at Rhodes, because we're looking at the whole picture together. And so SAT, ACT is not an end-all, be-all factor for sure. There are some ways that you're going to tell us who you are as an individual student, and you could do a whole separate presentation on how to interview, on different ways to write essays. But these are pieces that I hope that you will enjoy when you're filling out your application or pursuing your colleges, because these really are the pieces we enjoy the most when we're reviewing your application, because we get to see teenagers. So please preserve your personality when you're interviewing, when you're writing your essay, and ask your recommenders to tell us some anecdotes about who you are, not just as a student, but who you are as a community member. Another reason that KCD is really going to be an advocate for you, because you are going to have recommendations from teachers that have known you for years, and from college counselors who are going to spend the time to put in a lot of detail and effort into your recommendation. All right, another topic that is on people's minds, extracurricular activities. Of course, these are shut down all over the country. One of the things to keep in mind is that this is not a KCD problem. This is not a Louisville problem. There are seniors all over the country who are losing the spring semester academically and through their extracurricular activities, and maybe even part of summer, some of your summer athletics or arts or whatever commitments. That's going to be a fact for everybody. So we as colleges and universities are going to have to take into consideration that things got put on hold in the spring of your junior or sophomore year. So know that we know that, and there's nothing you can do to change that. Now, it might mean that you're able to take some time to figure out some new hobbies. Maybe you have never had enough time at home to do yoga on, Fire Stick, or maybe you're getting to read some books that you didn't get to read. You're going to get to try gardening. So we are also going to see that some students are going to use this time to learn some new things about themselves and their families. So I would encourage you not to be, well, of course you're going to be disappointed that your activities are done for this semester. You're entitled to be disappointed. But in terms of preparation for college or how it's going to be viewed in the admission process, please don't be concerned about that, and instead focus on using this time to discover some other interests and passions that you may have. So the 6P, which I've added for today, is you got to have some patience with us on the college side. There are a lot of questions out there. AP testing is another one that I know students are asking about. And colleges and universities are trying to figure out how we're going to graduate our own students this semester, how we're going to offer summer school, what's happening with our own graduation. We're kind of making these decisions step by step. So in preparation for applying to college and for your college search, please know that there might be some questions out there that we just can't answer for you yet. And we hope that you'll have patience with us, and know that we are also going to be, we know that this hasn't been a perfect junior year or sophomore year for you, and we are going to be understanding of that in the admission process as well. But I'm going to stop there and see what questions you have about this.
Great, thanks, Megan. Does anybody have any questions that they would like to ask via the chat?
I will address really quick, because I mentioned AP testing, and I have seen very little chatter in the college world about official policies. College Board has encouraged us to accept the AP credits or exam scores, even in their modified form this year, kind of without questioning them. And I think for the benefit of enrollment, there are going to be a lot of colleges and universities that follow that advice. So I think you're going to see that most people, when you take those at-home exams, should you score a 4 or a 5 or a 3, depending on the institution, I think you're going to see that credit awarded, but there really hasn't been any official policy other than College Board's recommendation.
Thanks for clarifying that, Megan. That's helpful.
Yeah.
One question we had from a student is, what types of activities are colleges impressed by the most?
The ones that you genuinely enjoy. You know, we want to enroll students who have tried some things, failed at some things, pursued things at a level of depth because they really enjoyed them. They're going to get to our campus. They're going to try new things. They're going to fail at some things. They're going to find new passions. That's kind of what this cycle is all about. Is research better than volunteering? No. Is a 30-hour-a-week job better than playing a varsity sport? No. We are looking for anything you do where you're dedicating time, commitment. People are expecting things from you. You're honoring those expectations and commitments, and you're learning something about yourself and other people. And that's going to take a lot of different forms. So, you know, and keep in mind, there are students who aren't lucky enough to have the luxury of choice of what their after-school activities or in-school activities look like. So I think for the most part, and the college that's right for you will be this way. There's a lot of grace in what we consider as the best extracurricular activity, because a lot of it is related to the school they went to, the area they grew up in, and kind of the opportunities that were available to them. I would say there is definitely a least favorite extracurricular activity, and that is students who really have not pursued any of their interests beyond the classroom.
Great, thank you. One other question we had is, if you are, let's say, a junior that's sitting in the spring of your junior year, is it too late to begin an activity or start a new activity?
I don't think so. I think I wouldn't do it for the purpose of college. I had an interview with a student from New Orleans long time ago. And this was fall of her senior year. And she was like, well, spring of junior year, I realized that I hadn't really been very involved. So I joined every club I could think of and got people to elect me as treasurer and historian and chapel, you know, different positions so that I could fill my resume. And I was like, yeah, that's not really the essence of what we're looking for. That being said, I have plenty of students that tried out for whatever reason. Maybe they had an injury through sports or something else changed in their life and they decided to try out for the play senior year and they loved it and they became kind of a theater junkie in their senior year. I welcome that. They didn't do that to impress a college. It was just part of their growth as a high school student. So it's not too late, but certainly it shouldn't be motivated by a college resume.
Great, thank you. I think those are all the questions that we have right now.
Great. Well, just a couple more things. Shameless plug for my son when he was a lot younger. But another way to navigate your college search is, and I touched on this earlier, is to use the counselors at the schools that you've identified as good fits for you. Demonstrated interest, which is a buzzword that we've started using in our world several years ago, with some conflict there. Rest assured that schools that count on demonstrated interest, and some of them do so very assertively. Tulane is one. They're going to have to look at demonstrated interest a little differently for the 2021 application cycle. So that being said, demonstrated interest has never required a campus visit. So this is where reaching out to your admission counselor, going to the virtual visit pages on the college's websites, they'll give you ways to interact with us. that don't require that you physically be in our city or on our campus. So demonstrated interest, I think, will continue to be a thing, which is just you raising your hand and saying, hey, I'm doing my homework and I'm interested in you and I want to know more about who you are. I think we're going to adjust kind of our expectation of how students are demonstrating interest. So you can kind of take a deep breath about that one, but don't stop continuing to do your homework. It's just that you're going to do your homework in probably some different ways. Email is something that you're probably already getting a ton of. That is going to continue. My recommendation as you get into senior year, the beginning of senior year, and your college list is solidified, and maybe you get to a point where you feel like it's done. These are the schools I'm applying to, and I'm really kind of closed-minded to other options. Either unsubscribe from the other schools that are emailing you to kind of help with the spam, or create a new email that you're actually going to check and send it to those 8 schools to which you're applying, so that you have one email inbox that is going to be where you're going to receive mail from schools you actually care about. Because there are times that I'm sending, yes, you're going to get, as a junior, you're going to get kind of spammy like emails from Rhodes. But let's say Rhodes stays on your radar. At some point, I'm going to send you an email that says, hey, we have a scholarship just for students interested in fine arts, and the deadline is a week from now. Well, if you've sent that to some kind of spam email that you're not checking, you're going to miss that. So keep in mind that email at this stage can be kind of a nuisance, but at some point it might become a very important way for schools to communicate with you. Similarly, man, there's so many platforms out there that allow us to text you. And so some of you provide your parents' mobile numbers or cell numbers. That's fine until they start getting texts from us, because colleges and universities, again, we're trying to reach you. We know you're not checking email, or you gave us an email address that 100 other schools are also using. So make sure that the phone number that you are providing to your final list of schools is one that you're actually going to be checking. And we try to minimize calls, because we know that's not always a way that high school students like to engage with us. We love doing interviews. Again, people will be all over Louisville this fall, but at this point, you've got some free time during the day, right? You don't have all those extracurricular activities. Maybe your coursework is a little more limited. And so you want to reach out to several schools and say, hey, can I do a conversation with an admission counselor as I'm starting my research about your school? We would welcome those opportunities, and no better time than when you've got a lot of time on your hands. And then also, my job is certainly to advocate for you, to read your application, but it is also to connect you to other people and resources at the college. So if you write to me and say, hey, I'm thinking about Rhodes, but specifically I want to do crew, could you connect me with somebody who rows crew at Rhodes? Or I'm looking at Rhodes, but I'm really interested in med school, and I'm specifically interested in your St. Jude connection. Who can I talk to that can tell me more about that? I am a much faster way for you to get access to that information than just perusing the website. And I can let you have a real conversation with somebody. So once you have that list of schools, make sure the admission counselor is somebody you are using as a resource. And finally, once you get to a point where you've decided on your college home, which will be a very exciting day for you, please don't forget to let the other schools to which you have been admitted, let them know of your college home. First of all, that will stop all those emails, phone calls, and texts that you're getting from them. But it's also important in our research that we know when our students are withdrawing and where they've decided to attend. That's something that helps us in the future. All right, and that brings my presentation to a close. Any final questions?
Does anybody have any final questions for Megan? Looks like you've covered all of it, Megan.
Okay, good.
Any other questions? Thank you so much for doing this. We really appreciate it. This has been really helpful. I think will be helpful. We've recorded this, so we're going to send it off to our sophomores and juniors so that they can listen to it and get the information. But it's been very, very helpful.
Great. And if anyone does listen to this in the future and they have specific questions, starlingm@rhodes.edu. I'd be happy to hear from you.
Thank you,
Thank
Megan.
you so much.
All right. Thank y'all. Be well. Have a great rest of your week.
You too. Hey. What's up, man?
That went really well, I think.
Yeah, I think it went good.
Oh, wait, you're still recording.
Oh.